All right, guys, let's jump right in. Thank you for being here. First off, do our live Q&A. Had quite a few people that had questions about real estate investing and wholesaling in general. And I want to make sure that I answer these questions for you guys. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. Today was kind of a busy day for me. Um, was comping some properties, wanting some things. Hopefully, we might have an opportunity before us here. Right before I jumped on, was kind of looking at that. First of all, I hope I have everything set here. I believe so. I am tech savvy, but I am not the most when it comes to Restream. Kind of just started this, but let's jump right in. So I had quite a few people reach out to me, wanted me to answer some questions, and I figured this would be the best place in order to do it. Instead of answering each question individually, I figured I would just do a live Q&A. We'll probably do this like every other Friday or so, where you can jump on with me and answer or ask questions about real estate investing, real estate wholesaling. Just to give you some background about me, I am a real estate investor, been doing it for about a decade now. We've been wholesaling. We have portfolios. I do virtual fix and flips. I do fix and flips in my own market. We own some light commercial, daycare, stuff like that with the family. So I believe that I do have the credentials to answer some of these questions, and some of them are not hard. I have some pre-scripted questions that people already sent in that wanted answers to. So I will start with those, and then if anybody online have any questions, we'll figure it out to get these questions answered for you. All right. So I know it's Friday evening. I'm not going to be with you long. Probably do this for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, answer those questions in regards to real estate investing. So again, if you have any questions about anything, make sure you let me know. Just put them in the chat. If you're on IG, put them in the chat. I think I'll be able to see them through Restream. If not, just slide into my DM, send them to me, and then I'll probably answer them a little bit later after this session. So let's go right in. So first question is, how do I know when I have a deal? That's a good question. So you definitely need to know your numbers and you need to know your metrics, because each market is different. I do deals here in Phoenix and I do them in Chicago, and these are two totally different markets. Chicago is more of a passive income market with a slight level of appreciation, and here in Arizona, it's mostly all appreciation. It's difficult to find cash flowing properties. So with that being said, I'm going to run comps and I'm going to look at a deal a little bit differently. So here in Phoenix, I'm going to look more so at this deal as far as a fix and flip. So how do I know when I have a deal? A lot of people like to use the 70% of ARV, minus repairs, minus wholesale fee equals your maximum allowable offer. It depends on the market. If I use that same formula in Chicago, it'll be a little bit difficult for me to find a deal. So here in Phoenix, here in Phoenix, what we normally do is look at what sold within the last 30 days, since the market is shifting quite a bit. We look at what's sold in the last 30 days, and we look at what's on the market. So we look at what's sold, we look at what's pending, and we look at what's active. And those actives, we're looking at how many days are they on market. Here in Phoenix, it's anywhere from around 45 to 55 days is standard days on market. So once we look at that, let's just say that property is valued at $400,000. Naturally, we want to try and get it for as low as possible. We want to come to a mutual agreement with the seller where they are happy with the purchase price and we are happy with the purchase price as well. So we're going to look at that 400,000. We're going to look at the repair costs. Let's just say if there is, just for the sake of round numbers, $50,000 in repair. So now you're from 400 down to 350, $50,000 in repairs. Plus, you got to leave some room in there for that fix and flipper if you're not going to take the property down and do the fix and flip yourself. You're going to look at how much percentage of equity, or not equity, but profit that real estate investor want to make. And normally it's, in these markets, anywhere from 15 to about 30%. So we're going to look at that. We're going to factor in that 15 to 30%. So we're going to look at that, 85 to 70% of ARV. Then we're going to subtract our wholesale fee. Let's just say if we want to make $20,000 on that deal. So now we're at, just so I can run some numbers here, let me pull up my calculator. We're at 400,000 times, let's just say 0.75. That gets you're down to $300,000 right off the top, minus the $50,000 rehab. So now you're at 250. So the property is worth 400. You're down to 250, and let's just say you want to make $20,000 on it. So your maximum allowable offer is going to be around 230. So now what you can do, that can be your baseline. What you can do now is go and look at other properties in that area, those comps that have been fixed and flipped, and you're going to look at how much the investor bought that property for. So if they bought it for 250, if they bought it for 260, 270, somewhere in there, that you can offer that seller comfortably, between 250 and let's just say 260, hoping that you can move it for 270 to 275. So you can make about $10,000 to $15,000 on that transaction. I know this may seem like it's unrealistic. Why would somebody that have a property that's worth $400,000 want to sell it for 250 to 275? And the reason being is because this is an event-based business. You never know what circumstances that seller is in. It could be a probate situation, or it could be a situation where the seller just can't afford the mortgage anymore, or the repairs on that property is too much for them to take, or it may be a senior that can no longer live by themselves and they need to move to senior living or something like that. So there are opportunities for you to get these properties under contract for well below market value. Just to give you an example, we just did one here in Scottsdale, a condo that was referred to us, and we picked it up for, let me try and remember my numbers now. We picked it up for 180, I believe it was. And at the end of the day, we sold it for 198. And then the buyer that bought it from us then resold it for like 205 before any work or anything was done on that property. So we made like $19,000 on a transaction. And then the person that we sold it to made an additional $7,000 on that property. And again, this property was in terrible condition, needed to be fully rehabbed, but it was in a prime location. It was in Old Town Scottsdale, right where all the happenings and stuff is. Okay. So that's with Phoenix. Now, let's just say if you're in the Rust Belt or in the Midwest, you're going to look at those numbers completely different. For one, it's not a heavy appreciation market, although with everything that's been going on for the past few years, naturally, there's been tons of appreciation, but the market is really starting to cool down and throttle down, and we're starting to see some leveling out. So let's just say, for example, I'll give you some real numbers from a property that we did. We picked up a property in the Morgan Park area of Chicago for $90,000. We put think at the end of the day, it was about $70,000 into it. So 90 and 70, we all in at 160. And then we turned around and sold that property for 270. Okay. So now those are round numbers, but you still have to factor in closing costs, realtor fees and commissions, seller concessions, things like that. But on that deal, we ended up making right around $86,000 on that transaction. But we took that property down. We did the fix and flip. We got private money on that, and we gave our private investor a 13% return on their money lent to us, and everybody was happy. The seller was happy. We were happy as the investors that did the fix and flip. Our lender was happy, and our contractors was happy, and our end buyer was happy because they had a completely redone property in Morgan Park. Everything done from top to bottom, completely renovated. Okay. So that's how do I know when I have a deal? You just definitely have to know your numbers. That's the most important thing. And the next question is, well, how do I know the numbers? So you have to do what's called comparable sales. You have to look at comps in the area. So you want to look in your general vicinity, primarily in that same zip code, or in that same subdivision. You want to find properties with the similar age built. So if it was built in 19, let's just say 80, you want to look at 10 years below and 10 years above. So from 1970 to 1990 would be a comp. You want to have similar square footage, similar beds and baths. So with the square footage, normally you can go 200 square feet below, 200 square feet above. So if the property is 2,000 square feet, you want to look at properties that's, 1,980 square feet all the way up to, 2,200 square feet. I'm sorry, 1,800 square feet to 2,200 square feet between 1970 and 1990, and you want to have like comparables as far as bedrooms. So you want to have, if it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you want to look at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Okay. And then if that value, let's just say, is $250,000, then that's going to be your ARV, your after repair value. That's how much that property is worth, completely fixed up, if you want to go to the retail market. Okay. So that's just a quick overview of how you can find your value and your comps. So you don't want to cross any major streets. You don't want to you just want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. You don't want to look at a property with the pool and the gated community that's across the street, and then your property don't have a pool, not in a gated community. Although the proximity is real close to each other, those are two different asset types and asset classes of property. You're looking at more of a high-end property versus a more bread and butter property. Okay. What type of marketing channel should I use? So when you're wholesaling, you want to try and find off-market properties, and off-market properties are properties that are not listed on the MLS, not listed by a realtor. So how do you do that? How do you find these people that are interested in selling? Well, there's a few ways that you can do it, but it all takes marketing. So you can go to sites like propstream.com or listsource.com. You can put in your zip code or your city, and you can put in demographics that say, I want to look for properties in A5014 that's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, built, no earlier than 1980, and that has, 50% equity or above. And those sites will pull down all of that information, all of the property owners that own properties in that zip code that have 50% equity, that has those same different demographics. You can download that information, send it off, so it could be skip trace with different services like batch skip tracing, things like that. And what I can do, if you're interested in some of these sites that I'm giving you, just feel free to slide into my DMs or go on YouTube, and I'll make sure I have those links below. But you can pull that information, send it off, skip trace, get all of the telephone numbers of those owners. You can text message them, you can cold call them, you can email them, you can even get emails, or you can send them a direct mail letter piece. Okay. So that's how you can find. So you want to start with a broad view and narrow it down to get people to raise their hand. Like I said, before I got on, I was just running comps on a property. It is a two flat in Chicago, and the seller is interested in selling it for around 110, 115, what they owe, and ran the numbers, and the property is worth like 340, 350, two flat, 6 bedrooms, 2 baths. So naturally, we're going to see if we can get that property for at what they owe or a little bit more, to put some money in the seller's pockets. So now what will we do? We have an opportunity. We have a property that is worth 340 to 350 that we'll be picking up for around 115. God willing, cross our fingers. Now we can either decide to go in, renovate that property, probably put $100,000 into it, or $120,000 into it. Now you're in at 220, let's just say 250, but the property is worth 350. So, and then we'll be able to collect that spread in between. Or we can renovate it and we can hold it. It's a small multifamily, and we can cash flow the property and rent it out. Or the last option is we can turn around and say, you know what? This is a great deal. It's a smoking deal. It's a wholesale deal. We got it for 115. I'm pretty sure somebody will want to buy it for 150. We can say, all right, well, we'll let you have it for 150 and we'll walk away with $35,000. Just on as a wholesale deal. So that's why knowing your numbers is very, very, very important. One thing that I would suggest is just take time, get behind the computer, and start learning your market. And you can learn your market just by going on Zillow and looking at all of the properties that's for sale in a certain zip code, what they look like, the finishes, are they completely rehabbed? What are they selling for, or what are they on the market for? And the properties that have not been renovated, that's in bad condition, how much are those selling for? And then you'll sort of have that baseline. Okay, if the properties that's not renovated are selling for $100,000, but then the properties that are renovated selling for 250, 270, you kind of got that baseline right there. So you can see investors are buying them for $100,000, fixing them up, turning them around, and selling them for $250,000. So these are simple, very, very simple acquisition and marketing tactics that you can use to start your real estate investing career. A lot of people think it takes hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It don't. For example, the property that I told you that we made $86,000 on, I did some marketing, spent about $2,000 on marketing. Due to my relationships, I had an investor that had the money that wanted to partner with us. They put up all of the money. They put up the acquisition amount, which was $90,000, and the rehab cost, which was $50,000. And the only thing I had to do was make sure we managed the property, manage the contractors, and make sure everything was done. And we got a big check at the end. So one of the key things is, and this ties into the next question, what should I be doing right now if I don't have the money? You need to get out there and you need to start networking. If being a real estate investor is something that you're truly interested in and you want to do this, you need to go where those people are. There's RIAs here in Arizona. We have ASRIA. In Chicago, there's I think it's called the Chicago area RIA. But wherever you are, normally there's a RIA within maybe an hour to 2 hours drive to your proximity, and that's including places like Birmingham, Alabama, and Memphis, Tennessee. You can definitely find those RIAs, and there's a national RIA. And not only the RIA, you can go to, so you can Google REIA in your city. Let's just say Chattanooga, Tennessee Real Estate Investors Association. You can do that. Or you can go on Facebook. There's different real estate investor Facebook groups. Again, you can do Chattanooga real estate investors. And information to pop up. And once that information populate, go to those meetups, go hang out with those people. Let them know, hey, I'm new, I'm just getting started, but I'm trying to figure this stuff out. I just want to be around the people that's doing it, so you can start absorbing all of that information. So when you're talking to them, it's not foreign to you. Okay. And then, like I said, not only that, a lot of these investors are looking for deals with the market changing. Um, People are out hunting. Where can I find my next opportunity? Because they're taking their money out of the stock market. They're taking their monies out of their IRAs, and they want to deploy that capital somewhere. So if you have an opportunity where they can gain 13% interest on their money, 10% interest on their money, they definitely want to do deals with you. Okay, so start networking, start going out. You can go to places online like Bigger Pockets. You can do Bigger Pockets wherever your city is and start meeting those people that's in that area. Okay. Is there a certain dialer you recommend for cold calling? For cold calling, I do. We use a platform that's called Ready Mode. It was previously called Zen Call. Um, Very, very good. It's truly cold calling software. Um, and you can build that out for just you, or if you have, 100 agents, you can build it out that far. Or you could do something, that's a little bit smaller, like Mojo Dialer or something like that. But guess what? If it's just you and you're starting out, the best thing to use is just pick up your phone. Just pick up your phone and just start dialing. Again, download those telephone numbers and just start calling them. Hi, Mr. Jones. I'm calling about the property you own at 123 Main Street. Are you interested in selling, or are you interested in receiving a cash offer in regards to that property? We're a small family owned business that's looking to buy more properties in the area. Okay. Get ready to face rejection, because that will definitely happen. But to answer that question, we recommend Zen Call or Ready Mode for our dialer. Again, there's tons of dialers out there. Again, Batch Leads have a dialer. Let's see, Mojo Dialer. There's quite a few different dialers out there. I guarantee you, if I just sit here and I Google real estate cold calling dialers, there's tons of them that come up. So pick your poison. You got phone burners, sales dialers, Ring DNA, HubSpot, Crazy Call, tons of dialers to boost your sales. Okay. Let's see. What should be in my text message? So if you're doing text messaging, simple script. You know, Actually, I just gave it to you when I was talking to you about the dialer. You can just say, "Hi, Joe. Sorry to bother you. I'm calling about, or I'm texting you about the property at 123 Main Street. Are you interested in selling? We're buying properties in the neighborhood." Simple as that. If you're interested, feel free to respond to this message or give me a call. It's not rocket science. Just think of, if you was texting a friend or someone, what would you say? If you needed a ride from a friend, you'll say, "Hey Bob, this is Mark. Hey, I need a ride to so and so." And it's the same thing when it comes to marketing with your text messaging. "Hi Bob, this is Mark. I'm interested in buying a property and what around your property at 123 Main Street. Are you considering selling?" Okay. And then again, I have all of this information. If you just reach out to me, I'll definitely share this content with you, like our text messaging verbiage, um, the different dialers that we use, and everything like that. All right. Next question. How do I find an investor friendly title company? Very, very easy. And I'm not even sure why this question comes up so much. Um, by knowing your network, you'll know who's doing what in your network. So you can always reach out to other investors and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm just getting started. I'm looking for a title company that I can use for my wholesale transactions or my fix and flip transactions. Who do you recommend? What escrow officer or title company do you recommend?" People will freely share that information. Okay. Um, One that I normally recommend is Fidelity National Title. They're a national title company, and they do a lot of creative transactions. So you just need to reach out to somebody at one of the Fidelity titles. Again, you can ask that question on Bigger Pockets, or if you're with the local RIA, you can find out. Normally, if you're with the local RIA, those people are right there at the RIA events, so you can ask them tons of questions. If I have a wholesale transaction, can you walk me through the steps? What are you looking for? What do you need? What documentation do you need? What do I need to present to you? How long does it take to close the transaction? What is title insurance? Things like that. So, very simple, very basic. You can get the answers, but you have to get out, and you have to network. All right. When should I assign a contract and when should I double close? Okay, this question is not cut and dry. It's not black or white. And the reason why I say that is because real estate wholesaling, and when you're looking to assign, I always recommend you assign contracts less than $8,000 to an end buyer that you do not know. Okay. The reason why is because when you assign a contract, everything is transparent. The seller can see how much you're making, the buyer can see how much you're making. Um, and sometimes sellers will question, why are you making an additional $10,000 or $20,000 on this transaction when that could have been money in my pocket? And sometimes buyers will say, "You know what? I'm looking at the settlement statement. Man, you're making $20,000 on this, and it's a thin deal. You know, let's negotiate." Your wholesale fee. So normally I tell people, if it's over $8,000, try and double close that agreement. Now, the caveat to that is, if it's somebody that you've worked with before and they have a good track record with you, you've closed deals with them before, they're not concerned about how much you make or anything like that. As long as the numbers are solid for them and they can make money, they don't mind paying 20, 30, $40,000 assignment fees. But you just have to know who those people are. And that's only done by, really being in the business for a while. Um, I'll give you an example. When one of our sellers asked me on the settlement statement, they were like, "Well, why are you making $15,000 on this transaction?" And I told them, I said, "Look, we agreed you wanted, $115,000 for this property. That was the agreement. That's what we agreed. That's what I'm providing for you. You wanted $115,000. I got you what you wanted. However, I have a pool of partners that I work with that are willing to pay me more for these same properties. So basically, my experience and my expertise gained me another $15,000 on this same property because of my network. A lot of times sellers don't even look at the settlement statement. They're just looking at how much they are going to make. Are they going to get what they say they're going to get? If so, they're happy, cut them the check, and they're on their merry way to do whatever they're going to do with the money. Okay. It's very seldom that the seller will ask you about an assignment fee. They don't even know what an assignment fee is. Okay. But just be transparent. Again, if you agree to give them $115,000, make sure they get that $115,000, minus any taxes or anything like that that they may owe. Okay. What is a bigger risk? Working with a virtual assistant or doing direct mail marketing with the slow response? I'm not sure where the risk factor comes in at. With direct mail, you will get a slower response. You may not get any response depending on how many pieces you're mailing. Normally, with direct mail marketing, you have to have a large budget, a sizable budget, because sometimes, just to get a response, to send 5,000 pieces of mail, 10,000 pieces of mail. I remember when I started and I was working with a company, they were sending 1,000,000 pieces of mail annually. So that was 100 pieces of mail, well, around 80,000 pieces of mail every month. But with that being said, back then, every dollar invested, you got $7 back out. So if you spent $100,000 in direct mail, normally you were going to get, $600,000 to $700,000 return in your investment. Now, if you're starting smaller, which most of you all are, I wouldn't recommend direct mail too much, because sending 20 pieces of direct mail or even 100 pieces of direct mail, sometimes you'll be wasting your money. I would suggest you start out with using a VA, doing some cold calling, or just using some guerrilla marketing efforts like driving for dollars, and door knocking yourself. It's high effort, but it's low outlay when it comes to marketing expenses. But if you have the money, then you can go into something more robust in your marketing and don't have to put as much effort into it. So I would think the bigger risk would be the direct mail with the slower response, because a lot of times by the time you're sending direct mail, and if there's other investors in your market, which they are, they're doing cold calling and text messaging, and they're getting instant responses. So by the time you send that direct mail piece, it may take 3 days to get to that seller. Seller may sit on it, may call you back, 3 days after they receive it. So it could be a whole week before you get a response, even if you get a response, even if it's a no. Versus me, I'm going to do text messaging or cold calling, I'm going to get an immediate response. If it's no from them, I'm getting that no instantaneously, and I'm moving on to the next prospect. Okay, so I think the higher risk is doing the direct mail with the slow response. So you can always hire a VA for $2, $3, $4 an hour, that can do the cold calling for you and text message blast for you. You just need to spend some time in training them. Okay. Next question: does earnest money go to the title company during a transaction? You never, ever, ever, ever want to give the earnest money deposit directly to the seller. Okay. And you have to make this clear with the seller. There's numerous times where sellers will read the contract and they will say, okay, I get $1,000 earnest money deposit. And they think that you're going to cut them $1,000 check right there or give them $1,000 cash. Absolutely not, Mr. Seller. This is going to a third party intermediary that's going to facilitate the transaction. They don't work for me. They don't work for you. They work for themselves. They want to make sure what we agree to, I uphold that agreement and you uphold that agreement. And they're going to hold everything in between as far as the earnest money. So you always want to give that earnest money to the title company. And if you're in an attorney state, you want to give that to the attorney. Okay. I always recommend, if it's an attorney state, you have it in your contract where that earnest money goes to your attorney. You don't want to give it to the seller's attorney because the seller's attorney will try and hold on to that money. Let's just say if you don't perform, if you don't go through with the agreement, then they'll try to use that as due recourse. Now, if it's valid and it's warranted and you didn't go through with the transaction because you couldn't find a buyer or you couldn't find funding, then granted, that money belongs to the seller, but you always, always, always want to give that earnest money deposit to a third party intermediary like an attorney, your attorney, or a title company. All right. Next question. How many days should my inspection period be, and how do I back out of a contract if I can't find an end buyer? Two very good questions. Let's start with the first part. How many days should my inspection period be? Your inspection period can be whatever you negotiate with the seller. A lot of times, again, the sellers are novice. They don't normally do real estate transactions, so they don't know. So you need to educate them on that. We normally do, like a 14 business day inspection period. It all depends on what market. If you're in more aggressive markets, sellers won't. They'll be a little bit more savvy and they won't allow such a long inspection period. But that inspection period is just a set time for you to allow your contractors, your buyers, your funders, your lenders, your partners to walk the property, come in and make sure you truly have a good deal. Okay. And it's an opportunity for you to look at the property to make sure that there isn't any repairs that are critical. When I mean critical, the property haven't been on fire before and they just covered it up, or so on and so forth. That way you can truly give a correct offer. So basically the process is you talk to the seller and you say, all right, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna walk the property, I look at the property, and here's my offer, Mr. Seller. I can offer you $150,000 for this property, but the property is worth $300,000. The seller says, okay, the property needs a lot of repairs. I don't have the money to do the repairs. Okay, I'll accept your $150 cash offer. Immediately, once that happens, you say, okay, Mr. Seller, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a 14-day inspection period. This will allow, because I'm not a contractor, I'm not an electrician, I don't know what I don't know. So I don't know if the electrical is good, if the plumbing is good, if the HVAC is good. This will allow me some time to get my trades in, to take a look at the property and make sure everything is legitimate. And during that time, you can have those subcontractors come in. You can have your buyers, your partners to come in and say, all right, you're offering this property for $170,000. I'll take it. Now, what you heard was, I got the property under contract for 150. I let my buyers and my contractors go in. Somebody said they'll take it for 170. Perfect. We'll get everything over to the title company. My contract is already with the title company with the original seller for 150. You'll wire in your earnest money deposit, and our assignment agreement or our second leg purchase contract between me and the end buyer for 170, and then the title company or the attorney will handle the rest. Okay. All of the fees will come out, settlement statement, and you'll walk away with a check of $20,000 minus, if there's any incidentals or any closing fees for your attorney or the title company. But normally in your contract, you're going to stipulate that all fees associated with the close of this transaction will be the responsibility of the end buyer. So if there's $7,000 in closing costs, that end buyer is going to eat that $7,000 in closing costs. Okay. And this is not foreign. Trust me, this is not foreign to real estate investors that are fix and flippers, that are landlords, or anything like that. They are used to this. This is the normal process of an off-market real estate transaction. Okay. So don't let them tell you anything different. This is just a normal transaction. Okay. So this is how you wholesale and gain a spread off of a property with absolutely none of your money into this same transaction. So going back, you agreed with the seller, you're going to purchase it for $150,000. Let's just say you agreed to a $1,000 earnest money deposit. Okay. So you submit the contract to the attorney or the title company. You will send your $1,000 earnest money deposit or whatever you and the seller agree to. You have your buyers come in, your contractors come in, look at the property. Somebody raise their hand and say, yes, I want this. I'll pay $170,000 for this. Then you say, okay, $170,000. I want a $5,000 non-refundable earnest money deposit. So once they submit that money, that $5,000 is locked. They cannot get that money back unless, the title from the original seller comes back, with liens or something like that on it, and you can't close the transaction. But if it's a normal transaction, that $5,000 is locked. Okay. And the title company can now refund you your $1,000. So now you're locked up this property with no money out of pocket. I know this seemed like it's unfathomable that people can actually do this. But yes, this happens every day. These kind of transactions happen every day. All right. So let's just say if that buyer don't go through with the transaction, that $5,000 is committed. They cannot get that money back. So now the $1,000 earnest money that you promised to your original seller, they get that $1,000. You get the other $4,000. So you just made $4,000 out of thin air moving paper around. Okay. If you want more information about this, I can definitely go into depth. Just DM me. We'll go into it. I have tons of videos on YouTube. I talk about this on IG and Facebook. This is my normal course of business in a day. All right. We're going to start wrapping up here. It's 4:45 here on the West Coast. I'll do a couple more questions here. How do I share with the seller I will be bringing people through the house? Okay, so we just kind of touched on that. That is, again, you're going to let your seller know. You're going to make sure you tell them everything up front. Hey, all right, once we come into an agreement, I'm going to make sure I have my partners come through, look at the property. We're going to do some more underwrite just to make sure that we're completely vested in this, and to make sure, that the property is standing. There's nothing completely wrong with it. That's going to give you the opportunity to get those cash buyers and those partners in the door. Okay. So we normally say, all right, Mr. Seller, we're under contract. We're in our due diligence period. We're going to have some of our partners that we work with come through and take a look at the property. What we want to try and do is we want to try and limit this to 2, maybe 3 times. Okay. Because we know that working with contractors, working with people, everybody's schedules are a little bit different. One person may say they can make it at 2:00, but they may not get there till 3. But we want to make sure that we're not hindering your time, and if you have a tenant, not disrupting their time. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and schedule it. Give me 3 days and 3 times that will be sufficient for us to get our people through. Okay. Thursday at 1 p.m., great. Saturday at 3 p.m., okay, great. Monday at 5 p.m. Okay, now I have 3 showings, 3 opportunities for us to get our people through there. Okay, so that's how you do that. And like I said, normally sellers are not picky about that. As long as you be upfront and you be transparent, they will allow it, because guess what? What do they want to do? They want to sell the property. And you're a buyer telling them that you want to buy the property. Let's work together and make this transaction happen. That way you can be happy, I can be happy, and the transaction gets done. Okay. Similar question: how many people should I allow through the house? You just want to vet those people. You want to make sure that they are truly capable of buying that property. So if it's someone that we never worked with before, we'll have them to send over proof of funds. That means you're sending us over a bank account showing us that you got $200,000 sitting in the bank, cash, liquid, ready to pull the trigger on this transaction. Okay, not I got to get a hard money loan, or I have to get a loan from Wells Fargo or Bank of America. All right, if they do have to get a hard money loan, they need to be able to have that readily available. Can you get this hard money loan within the next 7 to 10 days? And a hard money loan is different than a Bank of America loan. The pre-qualifications are different. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, big banks, you have to send over your W-2s, bank check stubs, credit reports, everything like that. With a hard money loan, they're going to look at that property, say that property is worth $300,000. This investor is getting it for $150,000. Yes, we can loan on this property, because what that hard money lender is looking at is, if they default on that property, we still have a lot of equity in that property to turn around and get our capital back. All right. Let's see. Last question here, and we will wrap up. How do I secure proof of funds? You know what? I'm not going to answer that one. I'm going to wait until next week to answer that one, because that's going to be a little bit lengthy conversation. Where should I list my wholesale deals? You can list those properties on Facebook. You can list them on Instagram. If you're already starting to build up a database of emails from cash buyers, you can send them an email. You can send them a text message saying, hey, I have this property. Here's the address. Here's what I'm selling it for. Here's what I think that the property is worth. Here's some pictures. Take a look at it. Let me know if you're interested. Okay. Cash buyers are everywhere. You just have to get out there, and you have to make sure you network with them and find them. All right. All right. So in closing, just wrapping up, I wanted to do this Q&A session for you all, because we get tons of questions in regards to how to do wholesale transactions, real estate transactions. And I just wanted to answer some basic questions. We do have a group that meet every Thursday. You can go to azdfc.com if you want additional information about being a part of the group. We show you how to get through that first deal, how to get through that second deal, how to build consistent income and consistent wealth by using this one strategy. It's very simple strategy. Okay. If you're looking for additional free resources, you can go to MarcusEMaloney.com. That's MARCUS, E as in equity, MALONEY.com. Free purchase contract. If you want to talk with me a little bit longer, there's free consultation link where you can jump on my calendar and we can talk, and I can answer your specific questions on how to do this strategy. Okay. Follow me on IG. Follow me on YouTube, Facebook, all handles MRCS Maloney. That's MRCS Maloney, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So that's it. Have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully I answered your questions. Again, if you have any additional questions or anything like that, just slide into my DMs, and I'll get back to you and I'll answer those questions. Again, me and my partner have over 20 years experience doing this. We would love to work with you. We would love to help you. We would love to see you succeed. If that's something that you're interested in, go to azdfc.com. Let's work together. Be a part of the family. Right now, we have about 26 people that we're working with. We got a few that just closed their first deal last week, and we want to continue that success with you and others like you. All right. It's Marcus Maloney. You know what to do. Get out there and make sure you enjoy the journey.